What is one moment when you realized you just fucked up? At one point a few years ago, my girlfriend, at the time, texts me and says, "Huh, I guess surprise pregnancies are a thing." Then she stopped responding for about half an hour, and I, 19 meters, proceeded to have a heart attack. Turns out her sister got knocked up, but that was the absolute worst 30 minutes of my life. Was at a bar, chatting with some friends. My GF was across the room sitting with some other friends. Some drunk dude showed up and started groping her. I jumped up, pushed him away, and yelled "fuck off." Then he turned around, and I realized he was like twice my size, and not in the fat way, in the tall muscular way. I mean, I did the right thing, but if the bartender hadn't leapt over the bar and jumped in between us immediately, that guy would have wiped the fucking floor with me. The moment the dude turned around I thought, fuck, this is gonna hurt. I've told this story before, but I had invited this guy over to my place for dinner after we'd been casually seeing each other for 3 weeks or so. Things were going pretty well, we were chatting, getting along like a house on fire, and he was helping me cook dinner when I started to feel extremely intestinally unwell. I've always been kind of a private pooper, and I could tell that this one wasn't going to be fun. So I asked him if he'd pop down to the shop at the end of the street to grab a bottle of wine for dinner. He agreed and toddled off down the street, and as soon as he was gone I raced to the bathroom and relieved myself with something roughly akin to the force of a, well, imagine this, but in reverse. I took a minute to catch my breath, reached over to the toilet roll holder, and came back empty. Well, shit. No matter. I had a full 9-pack of toilet paper in the back room. I didn't have space to keep it in my tiny bathroom. It was a very small apartment, so I usually just grabbed a roll or two, and he'd only just gone. I had plenty of time. Cut to me. 30 seconds later, pants around my ankles and my shit-caked bunghole shimmying my way down the central hallway of my flat, when I hear a still, small voice from behind me. What are you doing? Turns out he'd managed to get to the shop and back in record time and was sitting on my couch in my living room with a perfect view of my little fecal burlesque. I was framed in the doorway like a god of Renaissance painting. It was as though I was presenting myself to him in the worst possible you like. Come on, in the history of dating, it's very difficult to have a civilized dinner after that. A female friend of mine, to whom I was admittedly attracted, had been expressing her reservations about an upcoming vacation with her family. Though it wasn't being overtly presented as such, the trip was meant as a way of re-solidifying her parents' marriage, which had been a touch rocky at the time. They would all be driving from San Francisco to Redding, which is a small town in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Northern California, where they'd stay at a bed and breakfast inn for a weekend, before continuing northward for some unknown destination. In keeping with the alleged purpose of this so-called vacation, 2 rooms had been booked at the inn in question. To her dismay, though, my friend discovered that her mother would be occupying one room, her father would have the other, and that she and her sister would each have to bunk with one of their parents. This was worthy of lament on its own, but it was made unforgivably worse by the verbal diarrhea that I offered in an attempt at providing comfort. Or, it won't be so bad, I told my friend. Your father will probably enjoy sleeping with you. A moment passed before I realized what I had said. Then, with a feeling of growing horror, I tried to explain myself. Wait, I didn't mean it like that. I hurriedly said. I mean, like, he's probably sick of sleeping with your mom. No, wait, I just mean that he wants to spend some quality time with his daughter. If I had stopped there, I might have been able to salvage the situation. But as it happened, I decided that the best course of action would be to keep talking. I can't say that I blame him, really. I'd love to sleep with you. She and I don't talk much these days. TL. Doctor, implied incest, mocked mom, failed flirtation. The other day I was bking, not paying attention. Had a glove on my right hand that's often safe. Someone handed me a beer and proceeded to talk to me. I took the beer with my right hand. I then opened the BBQ and grabbed the top grill with my left, unprotected, hand to adjust it, pulled it halfway out before the heat registered. Once it did, the realization was pretty instant. The blisters were bad for over a week. Going home at 4 AM, even though I have a 7 AM class. Oh, and the lights at the living room is on. Walk and seeing my mom sitting at the sofa like a goddamn Mayfair. New Year's Eve 1999, I called a woman I was very good friends with. Friends only. I was firmly in the friend zone at that time. She was also my boss. I had way too much to drink and was not in any way considered sober or even slightly so. I was pissed as a fart. I proceeded to tell this woman how I felt about her, what I wished to do with her, and how I wanted to do it. I told her this for about 45 minutes. Afterwards I continued to drink. Several days later, back at work, she calls me into the office and asked me why I'd called her at New Year. I pulled a blank. I honestly could not remember a thing. She also informed me that several minutes into the conversation/monologue she handed the phone over to her mother. I still pulled a blank. In fact, I was so convinced that nothing happened, I was sure she was winding me up. If anything like that had happened after all, why was she still even talking to me, let alone letting me continue to work with her? She insisted that I called, and I refused to believe her. It was not until late January, when I received my detailed mobile phone bill that showed a 48-minute phone call to her number late on December 31st, that I finally had to believe her. The difficult part was facing her mother after my boss and I became an item. We are now very happily married, but even now my mill still takes the piss out of me over that phone call. My wife, however, is very happy. I was a young software engineer working for a startup in 1998. Wrote about a week's worth of code, images, and HTML. There was this funny file named in the directory. I wasn't sure how it got there, but I wanted it gone before I checked everything into CVS. No problem, RMRF. Asterisk. I discovered my error a few seconds later when the directory listing contained nothing. No code, images, or HTML. Turns out, is a shell wildcard character matching any one character. Combined with asterisk, all files got deleted. It was at this moment I knew I fucked up. Luckily I was using Linux. E2FS file systems had a utility called debugfs which allowed me to list deleted inodes and dump them to new files. Took the better part of a day to figure it all out. Since this was before Google, I recovered the entire project. Going on a long hike while in the Marines. Realized I fucked up when I saw my first sergeant with 2 rifles and me just recognizing I don't know where mine is. The what happened edit. Copious amounts of yelling were had. Since I didn't want to carry my rifle, my command figured I didn't have to carry any of my other shit either. I had to divvy up my pack among my squad mates and I rode in the truck the whole way back, so I didn't hurt my precious feet or something like that. My fellow Marines sorted me out real quick. I felt like the ultimate shitbird. Being stuck on duty in my service uniform for the next 24 hours yelling my general orders didn't help. Woke up in a small ditch on the side of a road. I hadn't slept and was making a long trip by myself, thinking it was fine. I ended up nodding off at the wheel and woke up in a small ditch my car had gotten into. Luckily, it was a small highway that was empty, so there wasn't anyone near me when I fell asleep. My car was also okay, as was I, but this whole thing could have ended very badly. People, please avoid driving when you're really tired. It's so dangerous, on par with driving drunk in my opinion. When I climbed my school's roof, was quite a heavy kid, and I was out and about with my cousin and mates. After running around school, my friends dare me to go up on the roof, and, as I'm not a wuss, I gotta prove to them that I ain't afraid to go on no roof. So after a while and much help I got up, ran around up there, and had a bit of fun, and then I had to get down. That's when I knew I fucked up. Nothing in sight to help me. All I could do was either call someone to help me, e.g. parents or firemen, or jump. Decided to take the risk and jump. Tried to do parkour, like I saw in videos. Jump and roll, you know. Ended with fucking up my foot, calling my parents, and driving to the hospital. When questioned, said I slipped while playing basketball. Foot is still fucked up till this day and my mom think it was because of basketball, lol.